Hey everyone, welcome to this video tutorial where we are looking at the spreadsheet application, and the purpose of the spreadsheet application is mainly to complete mathematical calculations, accounting formulas, present graphical representations through graphs, charts, among other representation. Now, for this tutorial, we will be identifying some of the features that we use in the spreadsheet, as well as formulas and functions that we can use to easily perform mathematical calculations. Now, I currently have a workbook open which I have completed some entries for prior to this video, and as a result we will begin with the information that we have here. Now, the first thing that I want to start off with is the merge and center feature, and what this feature does is to accumulate multiple cells and allow them to become one based on the required selection. Now, for this sheet that we're currently in, we want to place a title within the spreadsheet, and as a result, our title will be placed in the very first row of our document. Now, the first thing that I want to do is to select on the row number, which is the number 1. And if you're not familiar with the terms row and column, a row is the horizontal representation within a spreadsheet, and this indicates that it moves from left to right, while a column is on the vertical aspect, which is moving from top to bottom. Now, a row is represented by a number, while the column can be indicated with the use of a letter. Now, I have selected the first row, and I will have to ensure that I'm in the home tab. And then one way that I can go ahead and insert a row is to select the insert tab, which is located under the cell section. So I select insert, and what it does is to implement a row within our document. So that's one way that we could have included a row in our document. A second method that we could have used, so I have went ahead and undo that change that was made, and then a second method that we could use is to just select the cell, and then we right click on our mouse or our cursor, and within our drop down box we're locating insert, and then this automatically places a blank row at the very beginning of our document. Now, currently from columns A to I have some column headings and information related there, and as a result I would want to have my document heading merge and center across these cells. So I select cell A1, which is my very first row, or the cell area rather, and then once I locate this cell, I'm gonna select and then drag across to cell I1, and then from there you realize that the row based on the specific selection that was made, my current areas A1 to I1 is now selected, and this is indicated using the green border that is currently there. Now, the next thing that I want to do is to select the option that says merge and center. And as you can see, what this does is to remove the column indicators and to ensure that we now have one combined row based on the input of the column, or combination rather, of the row and the column that were selected. So in this area, based on the fact that this is a customer data entry table, we're just going to give it a random heading to say customer data information. All right, so let's go. As you can see, the the selection enables us to enter the information, and this is now located in the center of the selected areas. Now, if I want to make adjustments such as the font style as well as the font size, then I can go ahead and do the changes for those. So again, I'm under the home tab in the font area, and my font style would be located in the, or the font rather, would be located where I have Calibri. So once I select that, I can make changes to the type of font that I have there. Also, I can go ahead and increase the font size or decrease. Again, this is up to the user. Now, there are two ways that we can make adjustment to the font size. We can select the selection box that is there for font size, or to the right of that box, we have the increase and the decrease font. Now, what these are able to do is to either reduce the size of the font that is there or to increase the size. So for this, I want the heading to go maybe about 20, and then this would now indicate that there is a larger text appearing within this document. So basically, that's the application of the merge and center, the font as well as the font size. If it is that I wanted to apply a background color to this information, then I would select the paint box icon here, which is the fill color, and what it does is to apply a background color to the heading of our document. This can also be applied to the column headings that are also within the document. Now, the next aspect that we want to look at is the wrap text. What the wrap text does is to apply some changes to our document and allow them to fall on multiple lines. So again, I'm going to select the column headings for this example. So I begin with the customer ID and then move all the way to discount. So whichever column heading that has two entries in it, then it will be easier for us to see the changes for those. So again, we highlight the selected area. So let me go ahead and click off that and then highlight the column headings, and as you can see, the border boxes are around the green to indicate that the information was selected. And then again, I'm going to locate the wrap text. We're under the home tab, and then we're in the alignment section, and then I'm searching for wrap text. Once I click on this, then currently you realize that there was no change. However, what I'm going to do is to increase the font size, and as I increase the font size, you can pay attention to what is happening to our document. Now, as you can see, there are two entries that the wrap text is technically or physically being able to observe. In this is the last name and the quantity purchased. As these two, there is a multiple line indication there. If I go ahead and increase the font size once again, then there are other headings that will now fall into the double line method. So again, I move the font size up to 18, and as you can see, majority of the double information heading has now been placed on a multiple line. For the unit price, what I could go ahead and do is to reduce the size of that column, and as you can see, the unit price is now on a double line spacing. For the discount, is currently one text information. However, if I reduce the column, then this information would now break into two parts, and then the second would move to the second line of that heading. So that again is the purpose of the wrap text. It moves information to become or appear rather on multiple lines. Now, the next thing that we could look at is the text color. We can change the text color based on our liking. So currently it was in the black, and if it is that the user want to change the text color of the information, then they can go ahead and make the changes. So for this, I will change the text color to purple, and then I'm gonna apply a background or a fill color to maybe yellow. So I currently have a fill color as well as a text color change, and then my text size was increased. You could also change the font if it is a requirement, or based on whatever reason that you would want to change the font for. Now, where our calculations are concerned, I want to now be able to count the amount of items that were purchased, right? So I'm going to put a heading to my far left, which is in column A15, and we're going to call this count, right? So the purpose of the count is to, as we do our regular count system, 1 2 3 etc., then that is also the purpose of the count. Now if I go ahead and insert a function or a formula inclusive of a function, then I can be able to easily identify what the count for the item purchase would be. So if I go ahead and select the equal sign, which is how our formulas begin, then we would say equal, and then it is count, open bracket, and this is asking us for the values, which would indicate where do we want to begin counting and where do we want to end our counting. So we select the first cell location, which is cell D3, and then we could drag this all the way to the last item, and go ahead and close that and then select enter. As you can see, there is currently a 0 there. Why? Because the purpose of the count is to count numeric values and not text-based values. So if it is that I move this formula and perform it within the quantity or the unit price, then pay attention to the changes that would take place. So again, we begin with our equal sign and we're doing a count, and followed by an open bracket. Again, we select the first cell, which this time it is F3, and then a colon, which would indicate that we're now going to proceed to add in the remaining elements within this column. And the last cell that we want to have within this formula is the F11. So F11, and as you can see, that basically highlights all of the element within this column, and then we can go ahead and close our bracket, then select enter on our device. Now we're able to see a figure being portrayed there, because again, the purpose of the count is to count numeric values and not text-based values. If it is that we wanted to count text-based value, then we could use a function called a count A. So count A, which would indicate that we're counting all elements, whether it is text-based or numeric values, then this function would work for those. So let's try it within the items purchased to see if it works. So we begin with equal, and then this is a count A, CUONTA, open bracket, and then we select the first cell location, so that is D3, or colon to indicate that we're proceeding to a next or final cell, and this would be D11, followed by our close bracket and then enter. As you can see, this worked with our items purchased, and within the items purchased it was text-based information. Now I'm going to proceed to still use the count A. This time we're going to do the quantity purchase to see what the count value will amount to. So again, we say equal count A, open bracket, the first cell location, which is F3, or colon, and then our last cell that we want to count up to, and this is F11, followed by the close bracket. And yes, it did work, because again, we said that the count A does count for both text information and numeric information. And then there is a third type of count, which is called the count if. Now, the purpose of the count if is to perform a count based on a specific criteria that was given. So let's say we are going to do a count for the customer type, and we want to find out how many NC customers are there, right? So the function would then indicate that they're going to do a count of everything. However, the count will begin and only include those within the NC. So if it is NC, then it will be in the counting. However, if it is RC, then it will be ignored, and then the system would search through until all of the items have been searched. So again, our formula begins with the equal sign, and then we have count if followed by an open bracket. So it asks for a range, and again, a range is a combination of two or more cells within a spreadsheet. So our range would basically be all of this cell information beginning from cell E3 to cell E11. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is to highlight all of this information with my mouse, and as you can see, the cell information was entered. That's the first part of the formula. The next part followed by a comma, and then it asks for a criteria. So they're saying we're going to do a check within these this cell range, right? And then when we search this, what exactly are we counting? Now in this case, we will be counting all of those that are NC. So because this is a text base, we refer to this as a string, and normally string is located within quotation. So in our formula, we have a double quotation followed by the exact pattern in which, so this is in all caps, so we put it back in the all caps. So it's NC, and then we close the double quotation followed by our close bracket. Now we are going to select enter. However, to manually identify what our count value will amount to, we can go ahead and do the count. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So our total amount of count should amount to 4. So let's go ahead and see if that is the result. And yes, it amounted to 4. So again, the purpose of the count if is to do a count based on a range of information, and then we would identify what exactly will the computer be counting based on the given criteria. So a count is used to count text-based values, or numeric rather, while a count A is used to count both text-based and numeric values, and the count if will count everything, but the output will be based on a given criteria from the user. So that would have summed up our different types of count, and I do hope that you are clear on what we have covered for that part so far. Now, the next thing that we want to look at is the function called product. Now, for our current system, we have two numeric fields, which are quantity purchased and unit price. Quantity purchased, we would understand, would be the amount of items that were purchased by individual customers within this list, and then the unit price would indicate the price that a customer would pay for only one item. So $5,000 would be for one item, and now we want to identify the total for the 3, 4, etc. quantity items that the customers purchase. Now for this, we would indicate that we will be using a function called product. Now again, place our cursor within the cell that we want to carry out our calculations, and then we begin with the equal sign, and we are finding the product followed by an open bracket. So it is asking for number 1, which would indicate what is the first number that we want to use in this formula. So we can go ahead and select where the quantity purchased is, which is in F3, followed by a colon, and then we would identify the cell that we want to multiply whatever information is in this cell, which is located in G3. So once I select that, I can go ahead and close my bracket and then select enter. So that's one way that we could find the product of an item. Second instance could still be equal product, open bracket, and this time we're selecting F4, and we could try to use the multiplication sign and then identify the unit price area, which is G4. Close our bracket, and then this basically gives us the formula. So whether it is that we use the colon in our formula or the multiplication sign, then we would still get the correct result. Reason being is that the keyword product and then the correct cell entrances would give us the correct output. Now, we have an aspect of our spreadsheet or spreadsheet terminology called a relative addressing. The relative addressing is where we can be able to replicate one cell and then use this one cell to produce the output for the other cells. In this case, we have our first total price located here in H3, and we could just, instead of having to enter the formula for all of these customers, we could just go ahead and select the first formula location that was used and then drag this to the remaining cells, and the computer would technically autofill this information. So the relative addressing basically replicates or do a copy based on a previously entered formula that was provided within the spreadsheet. So I select the first total price location that was entered, and then as you can see, our information is highlighted with the green box. On this green box to the bottom right, we have a smaller box affixed to that box, and then this will permit us to do a drag. So I click on this and then I continue dragging, and once I reach the final item within my list, I can go ahead and release my cursor or my mouse, and as you can see, that technically autofills the remaining cell without having to have gone through a long process to include the formula for every single cell. And this is very time consuming in the case where you have maybe 1,000 customers or more. And that basically, again, we say cover the relative addressing, which does a replicating or a copying of one cell to complete the formula for remaining cell. Thank you so much for tuning in for this first video presentation in regards to the advanced section of the spreadsheet, and in our next video tutorial we will continue with the other functions and formatting features. Thank you so much for watching.